Hello, this is my empathy assignment. I'm doing the topic of how I viewed my mom's relationship with me. And I'm doing this by myself because it's gonna be tougher to translate and stuff like that. And I don't want it to be too heated of an argument or anything, so I'm just going to see it from a more mature perspective because I'm older now. So here's the background. I always thought that my mom was never there for me, and that is my position right now. I'm correct and my mother is wrong. She thinks that she's been there for me, and I do not think that she has. Or I guess I used to. So, my mom is not around that much because she's mainly at work. This perspective is from when I was younger. My mom is now retired, so I guess she has more time to spend around the house with me and my dad, all that stuff. But this is from the position of when she was at work, and this is how I used to think about my mom not being there for me. I felt that my mom was never there for me, and I used to think this because I used to see families on TV who would always have these family meetings together. They would always go out to dinner together. They would always have like that mother-daughter quality time that they had on screen and stuff like that, and I really wanted that to be true. Off screen, who knows how their actual families are like, but on screen, everyone was all kind of happy and giddy and together, and even though they fought, even though the mothers and daughters fought, they would still get along pretty well, and I kind of wanted that in my personal life, and I felt like when I was younger, I never really got that, because my mom, she grew up in a household where people were kind of distant to her, and it was really tough for her. And I guess when I was younger, I didn't realize how bad she had it in comparison to me. But when she was younger, she was kind of put aside, and I didn't really understand that. It took me many years to understand that she didn't know how to be a perfect mom. No one really knows how to be the perfect mom, right? It took a lot of questioning and asking, why is she not there for me? Why is she acting this way towards me? I'm her daughter, how dare she talk to me like that? Again, same thing, vice versa. How dare you talk to me? I'm your mother, blah, blah, blah. And I used to think that she was never there to spend any quality time together. All I would get was hurtful words spoken to me, and I just didn't understand. As a kid, when you hear those things, especially coming from your parents, you believe that stuff because it's coming from your parents. You're like, well, they're the only people that I trust, so this must be true. And my mom would say a lot of hurtful things to me, and that made me confirm even more that, yeah, my mom is not the type of person who is going to be there for me, who's going to encourage me. She's just going to talk badly about me, and I realized that, that's how she was treated, and she thought that was normal. And I'm sure it was really painful for her, and then she kind of inflicted that pain onto me, which is not good. Don't ever do that. And now that I'm older, I just kind of brush it off because at least I'm mentally more mature now than I was back then. Otherwise, I would have just been constantly crying all the time. And, my mom had work, and I would have parent-teacher conferences, and it was my dad who was always showing up. My mom has never been to any of my parent-teacher conferences. And now that I'm in college, I don't even know if we have parent-teacher conferences, but it was always my dad who was the one to go. So this next perspective is my mom is right when she says that she's there for me, and I'm wrong. So from this perspective, it's like, well, I think my mom, nowadays she likes to budge into everything. She likes to be in everything, and I'm like, okay, well, why didn't you do that when I was younger? Why weren't you like that when I was younger? You would just butt in all the time. But now that I'm older, I need my own space now. I gave her enough time to get to know me, but she just chose not to. And now that I'm older, she wants to know all about me. Anyway, her perspective is, well, I'm your mother, now that, I don't have work anymore, then I have more time to spend with you. But now my perspective is I'm a teenager, I need my space and all of that. And now it's like my mom she doesn't have work. She's always wanting to take me out to go shopping, go on walks, all of that, and hang out. But now I don't have time to hang out because now I have all this homework, all these assignments, college. It's now kind of a rush time where I can't really be hanging out as much. And now she's saying that, well, we have all this free time. She's always texting me, and now she's constantly just trying to pretend like nothing ever happened. And I mean, I see that there's effort there, but I just, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I wish you would have, done this earlier in my life. So that perspective is my mom is there for me. She's always, getting me food, all of that. I think that's, I'm not saying that isn't basic parenting, but that is basic parenting. Obviously, I know it takes a lot to put food on the table. But they work really hard. I understand that. This is just coming from the kids' perspective, from my inner child perspective, where I'm like, well, you're a parent, you should be able to afford things. But that was when I had more of a hurt mindset, because I'm pretty defensive, because I've been hurt too many times or something. So the next position is both of us are right. I believe that my mom is not there for me, and she believes that she is there for me. I believe that my mom was not there for me as much. I guess now she's a lot better at it, but now she's too clingy. I believe that my mom wasn't there for me because every time I didn't ask her for something, or I asked her just like quick stuff, and she would just brush me off. She'd be like, all right, never mind, whatever. Right? That also used to be my dad, but my dad, I was able to talk to him, and my mom she's a tough cookie, okay? She's a Libra, if that says anything. I don't know. I'm a Cancer, so, very emotional. And, when it comes to mother issues, I guess I do have some mother issues. Well, this is just my perspective. Being a parent means you have to really... I understand the sacrifices that were made because she had to work. She had to work overtime. And also because she couldn't drive, and my dad was the one that could drive around. Then I could really understand that perspective. I was like, oh, yeah. I had to tell my mom's friend about this, and she was like, well, your mom didn't really, have any access to transportation and stuff like that. And she was working overtime, and your dad was able to drive around more freely because he had a car. My mom was cleaning motherboards, and she was working with computers, and my dad was managing stuff. I'm still not sure what he does, but he's a manager. I was always more okay with my dad, more comfortable with my dad, even though he was kind of also a tiger parent when I was younger. But I still went more towards him because he was always showing up at my sports events, at my recitals, at my parent-teacher conferences, everything. He was always just there, right? He was present, and I felt neglected by my mom because, I never saw her anywhere. And, they never really explained anything. All I heard was money, right? It's like, I have to make money. It's like, well, that's not a good enough reason. It's a reasonable reason now, but as a kid, you can't, well, I guess it depends on what kind of kid you are. As a kid, you can't just say something once and just say, because I said so. It's like, well, why? We always, as a kid, we're very curious to understand these things. So it was very, very confusing when they said because I can't show up. It's like, well, what does that mean? Just didn't show up. How come my dad is always showing up to these things and you're not? And it was very frustrating for me as a kid. The perspective of my mom was there for me probably at home, in the morning, the car ride to work, the car ride when we dropped my mom off at work and then we dropped me off at school. That was the time when she was there for me. That's what it felt like. And, when we go out to dinner, that's when she's there for me. Those are all family things. Those are all kind of just the basics of it just comes in the package, right? But from my perspective, that wasn't enough because that was just like the basic things. Feeding, a shelter, home. That's like the basic things. It's just like spending actual quality time together and like not making fun of me or not saying something bad about me or not pointing out my every insecurity. That would really be a good bond between mother and daughter because it's really tough. And I understand that she had a really hard time, in her childhood. But if she would be more mature about it and just kind of let that go, then I can be more mature about her not being there for me. If that makes any sense. I do still sometimes wish that she was more there for me, obviously, because that was my childhood, right? That's like the prime time for when the parents should be in your life, right? And it's really tough. And even though I do have both parents, and mainly when I was a kid, it always felt like it was just my dad. And my mom was just a stranger living in our house. That's honestly what it felt like. And it's really tough. it was really just kind of really confusing and frustrating to me. And I was always watching these TV shows and like, wow, like look at these parents, like even though they fight, they still make up, they still apologize to each other as adults, and they still, they say, hey kid, sorry for, bringing you in the middle of our fights and stuff like that. Sometimes I was the one to get blamed. I'm sure, like, of course, your parents do everything for you. They're mainly making money for you, right? They're mainly doing all this to support your future. And it's tough. Obviously, I understand that. It's just, I do wish that my mom was more there for me in my childhood when I needed her. Of course, I still need her. I mean, come on, But that was just the prime time. And it was really bad. It was really, it wasn't fair. And I was like, how come all my friends, they seem pretty happy to get along together, but when it comes to me, it's like, my mom doesn't even want to do anything with me, and it just feels really empty. But now it's a lot better, obviously. I understand that. I understand what she had to go through. I understand the sacrifices both of my parents had to make in order for me to keep thriving the way that I'm thriving now. I understand that my grandparents had to take care of me a lot. And, as a kid, it's all kind of blurry, but, during the prime time, like when I'm going to like first grade through like third, fourth, fifth grade, that's like the prime time when our parents should be there for us. And it really is, it's tough, but that's why I think our main issue as a family is that we don't really communicate as much. Because my parents come from a very strict traditional household where it's all about work. They didn't have time to conversate, or when they did, it was very short and to the point, and it wasn't very like touchy-feely. It wasn't really getting into the emotions of things. It was just kind of like, okay, do this, get the grades, go to a good college, get a good job, and, sacrifice everything, right? And that's like a really tough mindset, but, I understand where they're coming from, and I understand where they came from. So this has been an emotional roller coaster. I don't like roller coasters. Emotions are great to display, but it was getting a little too close. Thank you for watching. I hope I didn't offend anyone on anything, but this was just my perspective, and this has been my empathy assignment.